We've saved the best for last, a glimpse into the future, a panel on Gen Z and finance. Our moderator is Kohn. Ariel is a co-founder of Gen Z for Change. She is a freshman at Harvard University and our former intern. So please welcome Kohn.
Well, everyone's getting settled. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Jim. And it's great to be here finishing off this wonderful conference. Such a lovely honor. And I'm pleased to be joined by these wonderful Gen Z panelists here. And so I guess just to start off this panel, we started this conference talking about how fintech is a disruptor and an influencer, and how that's very much defined the industry. And as soon as I heard that, I thought to myself, well, that's Gen Z. We are disruptors and influencers. And so I think I'd like to start off today by asking these lovely panelists how they view Gen Z as a disruptor and an influencer in society, and how that relates to the mission of fintech and fintech as an industry. So yeah, we can start with whomever wants to start.
Sure. I can start. So, I mean, I think unequivocally we can see that Gen Z is the most racially and ethnically diverse generation to date. And 72% of Gen Zers believe that racial equality is the top issue of our time. And when you look at investing, sustainable investing, green investing is going to be one of the biggest themes in this upcoming generation. So I think with the proliferation of social media as well, we see that where Gen Z gets our information is 91% of us get it from social media. And so there's more and more content, there's more and more opportunity to share what we're investing in. So it's taking away the power from those traditional voices where there's only one source of information. So I think that as it pertains to disrupting the fintech industry and influencing the fintech industry, there has to be a true shift in bringing personalized financial advice, actually creating a system, I think, where financial education used to be around shame and saying, you should be getting your act together. You should be figuring out how to do debt. And if you are in trouble, it's because of you and you need to figure it out. I think we need to move to a system of financial empathy and financial personalization. And I think that's the way that fintech is going to evolve in order to accommodate and really empower Gen Z.
Just to go off of that, I think with Gen Z, when it comes to social media, going off of that again, we're able to see who we want to be influenced by and who we don't. I think that has to do a lot with the social media era to begin with. So we take ideas from people that came before us and we just advance it a little bit, or we take a little and we don't, so I think that's important as well.
Well, hi, my name is Shannon. From a personal standpoint, interacting with fintech products, I feel that it's very important to know what I'm getting into and to be educated on the topic. Whenever I encounter a product such as Coinbase, I downloaded and installed the app, and even now I'm still sort of contemplating what I should invest in, what I should not invest in. I often feel as though I have to make the right choice. And so I think what would ease my tension personally is offering a full service product that not only gives me so many options, but actually maybe educates me a little bit on what I'm actually using, how to use it, and the growth of each industry and why I should invest in that. And just really a platform that has a holistic approach to selling me the product, I think, from my personal standpoint, would be more comfortable.
Great, thank you so much. So I think next, Gen Z has grown up around these shiny financial tools that emphasize like the fun aspects of banking, like gamification, customization, which have been big topics today. And we've also experienced our share of serious economic turmoil between the Great Recession and the COVID adjustment. How do you think our coming of age while watching our families and older friends navigating these two blockbuster events has impacted Gen Z's philosophy around money and investing?
I mean, one thing I would say is that because of the Great Recession, like millennials have been the ones who have fallen to the greatest amount of debt. And in particular, if you actually look at the debt amount right now, women carry 2/3 of the $1.5 trillion student loan debt. And so in working in the space where I've worked in particular with female entrepreneurs, female business owners, helping women try to get access to venture capital, where only 2% of venture funding goes to female entrepreneurs, we see women in particular, they are starting businesses at a greater rate, but they're still dealing with debt. They're still dealing with lack of funding. And so I think when you look at this compounded with, where things are going, it's going to be a lot of Gen Zers are seeing this and they're becoming more risk averse. They're seeing the way that millennials have been stacked with debt, are struggling to pay it off. We're not receiving the proper financial education to figure out how to get out of it. And so I think that when you look at Gen Z, we are more focused on education, more focused on making the right choices for our financial lifestyles, because even the way we approach careers is more focused on like purpose and feeling like we're creating an impact, not just on profit. So I think if there's a way to figure out how to really drive home a message of we care about your lifestyle, we care about your balance and your purpose and your passions, as well as your profit. And when we have that personalization, then we actually feel like we're taken care of versus just AI algorithms that apply a one size fits all.
Yeah, I think, with someone like me, I grew up around hustlers. My father was a businessman. My mother had a couple side businesses growing up. So, learning about how to, use your money wisely was very important starting at a young age. And I feel like a lot of people in Gen Z have picked up on that from whoever was raising them, a guardian, a parent, whoever it would be. And I also believe the same thing is like education is super important with that. And, like just thinking, just come back to me because I gotta put everything together. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Shannon?
I had it and I lost it.
I would say that I've observed how money works my whole life. It first started with the cartoon Ed, Edd n Eddy. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but it's about these three boys, and one of them always has an idea, and he always has a scam that he wants to execute. And he has a smart guy and a dumb guy. The dumb guy does the hard work, and the smart guy makes it kind of happen, pulls it together. And then as I got older, I started watching Shark Tank, and then this was around 2009 when my mom started her business, and it had a brief and abrupt end because of the financial crash. And ever since then, I was always interested in money. And I knew that even though I wasn't good at math, I knew this was my ticket to success. And so a lot like what Carmen was saying is that it was always sort of a way to be risk adverse, to focus on money, but not to really just throw away everything into one thing, not putting eggs in one basket. So witnessing people grow up, it was like, okay, those are the things that I shouldn't do. These are the things that I should do. This is what healthy debt is. This is what not healthy debt is. This is what good investing looks like. And this is what bad investing looks like. So that's my perspective.
Just to
let's go back to Rain.
I got the thought back. I'm so sorry, y'all. Things just happen, So yeah, after all that, seeing my parents go through with the Great Recession and everything with the pandemic, just seeing people lose money, gain money with everything with cryptocurrencies. Like you kind of take that information with you and you apply that to yourself. Cause you know, I feel like with the people that I grew up around, we don't want to mess up a lot. And so we see what has happened in the past and we just make sure that doesn't happen for ourselves. So if like with that, everything with the cryptocurrency right now, like I just got involved with that. My father has been investing since he was probably my age. And, you know, he's made a lot of mistakes. And then when I got in, and he's made a lot of great success with it too. But learning from that, he's telling me information that I could use. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, just for myself. And so I apply that to any kind of move I make and just hope for the best with it.
Nice. Thank you so much. So my next question, first, I'm going to turn it over to Carmen. And it wouldn't be a Gen Z panel unless we talked about social media. So I think social media has made it such that it's standard now to share what had previously been seen as private, and you know, money is no exception. So you know, you have TikTok accounts offering banking tips that have become increasingly popular. You have DIY options trading. You have crypto crash courses, and of course, the most notable example of this was the GameStop revolution during the height of COVID, which demonstrated the power of these information hubbubs. So what role do you see the open exchange of knowledge playing in traditional investment? And Carmen, let's turn it over to you.
Sure. So just a little bit of background. Right now, I'm the global head of brand and communications at Republic, which is a $500 million alternative investment firm. And we focus on helping both retail and accredited investors get access to investing in startups, cryptocurrencies, video games. We just opened up a music vertical, so you can invest in pieces of music and take away the middleman that is the record label, which gives more opportunities to independent artists. But the whole platform is built on this idea that traditionally in venture capital, you know, that 94% of investors are male. It's always been for a small homogenous group of people who could get access to these high growth startups. So you couldn't invest in Uber unless you were in that inner circle. But as of 2016, when Obama passed the Jobs Act, we made it available so that anyone, regardless of their income status, was able to now invest in private companies at the earliest stage. So you can invest with as little as $100 and get a piece of equity in these startups. And so that, in terms of private investing, gives a huge opportunity for anyone, but also Gen Zs, to diversify the types of asset classes that they can invest in. And I think that's something that we're really hungry for, not just stocks, not just bonds, but we're looking at cryptocurrencies, we're looking at startups, we're looking at all these other cool ways that we can put our money and also support the things that we care about. So when GameStop happened, I think it really highlighted the opportunity for anyone, regardless of their income status, to get involved and actually make a difference. And I saw this because I started out my career in hedge funds. So I was working at a long short equity fund, doing research and looking at the way macro trends were affecting the various buckets that we were investing in. And so seeing the big difference between even the types of people who comprise that office versus the people that I work with now, and how everyone needs to have a voice and feels empowered when they can even put in $100, you know, on an investment rather than, I don't know, like spending it elsewhere on like a night out. So I think that when it comes to the way we educate Gen Z or the way we speak to them, it's really about talking about all the different ways that we can invest our money, all the different ways where you can invest in anything from fintech companies, you can invest in healthcare companies, you can invest in green tech companies, and you don't need a lot of wealth to do that. And I think that's the biggest difference right now when it comes to how we want to spend our money.
Great, thank you. And then just to turn it over to Randy and Shannon, how do you think social media has shaped your relationship with money, and how others see your how others see your wealth?
Well, I think my view of social media is that we've adapted to it in a way. I grew up with it in middle school, and you have interactions that you learn from. And then, so now we're in this era where social media is needed to find employment. This inevitably led to us commercializing socialization, which is now what I'm looking into as I'm in grad school, trying to build my idea for a social media platform. I'm looking at how I can commercialize, not necessarily socialization, but really get the right interaction style that is valued by people of my generation and students who are looking for a better financial future.
What is valued by your generation?
What is valued by my generation? My generation values, like I said, a full service product. We value honesty, and we value, I guess, an unhealthy value is fast results. That being said, when it's backed up with honesty and a full service product that really, delivers all the goods, that's where Gen Z wants. That's what Gen Z wants.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so just a little bit of background about me is that I do a lot of freelance work in photography and dance. So nowadays, with social media being at the height of everything, you see a lot of small businesses that need help with choreography or need help with an idea for certain scenery that they're going for with their photography or their art as a whole. And being able to, if I'm trying to sell something to someone, I need to be able to know that we're on the same page and I'm not just really thinking about the money. Yes, I do need to pay bills. Yes, I do need to pay off my car, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's all about trust. So if I'm trying to sell something to someone, whether it's photography or choreography, I try to make them comfortable with myself. And then at one point, if I'm like, excuse me, sir, like, oh, we've been getting to know each other for a little bit longer now. Like, are you interested in like what I have to give you? And if you say yes, then I can offer you these kind of deals that I have. Or if you say no, just move forward from it. At least I did my best and I tried my own, the best way I could. I feel like going with a strong approach right off the bat really isn't helpful. That's just something that I've dealt with throughout the time as a dancer and a photographer. It's like being too straight up with someone. I feel like that scares people away. And so just being able to be comfortable with them and figure out like what they're going for and how you can build that trust with them is super helpful.
I think I'll also
go
just
ahead.
add on to that in terms of like authenticity and the empathy side of things is from a marketing and communication standpoint for fintech companies. I think in the past, it's always been about like pushing FOMO or like, get in or you'll miss out. And it's like very aggressive, like just all about the gains and all about the growth. And I think that the way marketing messages are changing has to be much more focused on asking questions rather than pushing statements. And so it's like, are you new to investing? What are your biggest challenges? And so it becomes more of a conversation rather than an assumption. And I think when we feel heard, which is not something that we've millennials or any previous generation, I think really felt, especially if you are diverse, you've never felt like you were included in any sort of financial education or fintech companies, that just simply asking questions, thoughtful questions can probably put you ahead of the curve if you are launching a new brand or thinking of iterating your brand.
I definitely second that. And I do want to get to questions from the audience, but before we do, I want to return to something Shannon said. And I think that so much like the TikTok account that goes viral virtually overnight, many Gen Z financial role models have become wealthy, not by necessarily waiting their turn or building up skills over the years, but by finding a loophole and, exploiting it. And that sounds bad, but I mean, that's just the reality of our generation. And I think as a result, our expectations for wealth creation are vastly different than older generations. And so to that end, we enjoy the volatile industries like cryptocurrency, the high risk, high reward, opportunities. So how can regulated financial institutions and public companies hope to attract younger people who have different expectations about risk and timing and predictability? Yeah, go ahead, being service Shannon.
offer something that we're not getting. We're not getting the stable. We're not getting the I've got your back through thick and thin kind of brand. You know, I would very much appreciate a platform that, you know, was willing to grow with me rather than, you know, earn me like that one shot of, you know, cha-ching. And that's my answer.
So would you say that we're not after like the quick results that we want, or is it that we want the quick results but with the support that that someone could offer?
I'm saying that we want the lifestyle, and the lifestyle requires you to think about the lifespan. So a brand who thinks about the lifespan of a Gen Zer and understands that, you know, okay, yes, they're young and they're in their 20s. And once they get to their 30s, they're going to be like, oh, wow, I don't think all the tricks I had, you know, the last 10 years are going to work in this next stage of my life. The brands who think about a Gen Z's future is who's going to sell to, you know, a Gen Z.
We want a brand that's going to grow with us.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I mean, someone that is part of Gen Z, I think it's like 50-50. I don't think everyone wants like a quick rich scheme type of thing. You know, when it comes to like learning, when you see someone like blow up on an app like TikTok, you can see the algorithms of where your videos and your posts are going. And if that kind of stuff is working, so whatever business you're doing, you see like, oh, like this is working, this isn't, you got to take some things back and redo your plan and just see where it goes, you know? I keep losing my thought.
It's okay.
I
It
keep
happens.
losing my thought. I am so sorry, guys. I'm gonna come back. So sorry.
Carmen.
So I think for me, the most important, and if I think about it holistically, is around a redefinition of financial independence and financial freedom. Because I think in the past, there was this almost blind chase for just more money, more like just more, right? More symbols of wealth and status. And that doesn't resonate with our generation anymore, because, you know, we've talked a number of times about what lifestyle design looks like. A lot more of us are mobile. A lot more of us want to travel. We're not necessarily all looking for houses or the same kind of like white picket fence stability. And especially with the internet allowing us to have different types of mobile jobs. So, you know, I can also speak as a woman who, not having that many role models of what like financial independence as a young woman looks like, questioning certain models of how I want my family life to look like, how I want to manage my finances, you know, seeing things like the divorce rate and actually being educated about that. I think there's financial companies that can actually talk about, okay, based off of your specific goals of financial independence and financial freedom, what is it that success looks like for you? And then based off of that, what are your milestones? And I think there is the gamification aspect of it. So it feels like you're making incremental progress very often, but at the end of the day, there's also that backbone of trust and like this company wants what's best for me and will grow with me.
Amazing. Thank you. So I'm now going to turn it over to questions. Yeah, we got one over here. Absolutely.
So I have a question about like just spending, right?
Sure.
So, you know, and anybody can jump in. All right, jump in as well. Give your answer as well. You know, Venmo, Cash App, like all of a sudden, you know, you use cash, like, you know, how do you spend money in terms of what form? Like, you like Venmo, Cash App, are you now looking for retailers in terms of that take Venmo, and they take a PayPal, or they take a Cash App? You know, maybe start with where cash fits into your universe, and then what else you're using to buy.
Sure. So just to repeat the question, it's about how are we spending money? Are we using cash, Venmo? And yeah, you're eager to jump in there. So.
I definitely got an answer for this, y'all, I promise. So yeah. So I use Venmo. I use a lot of I use Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, all that. When I'm talking to clients that are looking for dance photography, I do cash, but I always end up putting it away. That's just how I work with my money. But, you know, weekly, like, cause I have another job too, like, just like to hold me stable. I do take out like, you know, like $60, $80 a week for myself, just in cash. If I have to go somewhere, like, oh, we don't take card, because I just think that's the smart thing to do. But a majority of the time I do work with, you know, the cash apps and all that, and the Venmos, the Zells, because I just think it's super helpful. And also something that I really like is that I like the instant transfer. Like, I don't mind giving the extra 20, 25 cents, 30 cents just to get it back. But if that's just mainly what I use. So.
I think and Randy knows this because I'll text him.
We went to college together.
Yeah, I'll text him like once a month, and we use this cheat system where if I need to move my money from one card to another card, I'll say, hey, Randy, send me back this money. And like, I'll send him like $300 on Venmo. And, you know, it'll take him either 5 minutes or an hour to see the text. Yeah. And then he'll send it back to me and I'll just download it back to my other card. So it's definitely a way I like to cheat the system. I hope they don't tax me more for that.
That's what friends are for, guys.
Yeah. I don't know. I just started college a few weeks ago, and I would say that cash has not been part of my experience thus far. We are, you know, I use my phone to pay for everything, just Apple Pay. Like if someone gives me cash, it'll go in my bag and I'll never see it again. So I would definitely say that, you know, our generation is not big into cash. It's, you know, just extra baggage that we don't want to take care of. So definitely away from that. Do we have time for one more question? Yeah, go ahead in the back. Yeah. Every senior executive. Anyone want to take that? Oh, yes. Sorry. The question is, do we deal with imposter syndrome? Is that part of our experience as Gen Z?
I think everyone deals with imposter syndrome. And I think that happens regardless of where you are in your career, age. And so I actually created a whole podcast around this topic called enoughness, which is the question of like, when is it ever enough? When am I ever enough? It doesn't matter how much you achieve or how much money you have. And there's still this feeling of maybe it's not enough, or maybe I'm not enough. And how do you tackle that? And I think one thing, so women and people of color experience it more, just because we don't see the same role models, we don't see the types of leadership respected. But actually, one thing that within my research when I was doing kind of gender differences is that the way society has talked about women and this lack of enoughness is we say women are not enough in their beings, not pretty enough, skinny enough, smart enough, all those things. And so women who don't feel like they're enough literally shrink. You know, their language is softer, their bodies, like they physically shrink. And then men are told, you don't have enough. You don't have enough money. You don't have enough cars. You don't have enough women. And so oftentimes men who don't feel like they're enough expand more. So they get more stuff, they get more wealth. And then that's where you get this interesting phenomenon where you have very large men in the room who are taking over the room, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much money you have. If you haven't dealt with that internal enoughness or imposter syndrome, it's still there. And so I think this all comes back to just aligning with values. And that's something that I've really done, which is figuring out what matters to me versus what is it that society externally says should matter to me. And I think for every individual person who deals with that, it's going back to, regardless of what the external world says should be important, what is my own voice, what does my own heart say actually matters. And that resonates in terms of like what you invest in, what you purchase, the types of companies you support. So I think if you actually get that grounding, that's for me how I eventually got over the imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I'm actually going to agree with that. I feel like we've all dealt with that before, you know, and it really does matter. It does come down to what matters to you. And you learn you learn about that through life, you know, like it could be from when you were like a kid to now, like you go through certain stages where you go through that kind of imposter syndrome, but you know, you got to just, you figure out what matters to you and what doesn't. Just the short answer.
I will say, you could say I cheated my way into college because my grades were not good enough in high school. And I was like, I'm a great dancer. So I got a full scholarship to go. And really why I decided to go to four-year university was so that I could study business and marketing, because I had ideas buried deep down that I wanted to start. And so a lot of times in my marketing classes, you know, I didn't feel as though I was supposed to be there. Even now, sometimes in my grad school courses, I feel as though maybe I'm asking too many questions. Do people know that I'm not supposed to be here right now? So it's definitely a daily thing. And I will say from my personal point of view, I think the fun part about imposter syndrome is the rush and to play the character, you know, to be here talking about this right now is like, can they tell that I don't know what I'm talking about? So yes, that is, I think everybody feels it.
Yes, thank you. Well, that's a great, no one can tell, you've done a great job. So thank you, everyone. And that concludes this panel. We really appreciate all your wonderful questions, and thank you so much for joining us today.